right, let's talk about something we all have to deal with, conflict. But what if we've been looking at it completely wrong? In this explainer, we're going to break down how to reframe those high-stakes conversations, how to turn them from a battle you have to win into, believe it or not, a training ground for becoming better. You know, for centuries, this was pretty much the playbook. Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, lays it out really simply. If you want to win, you need anger. It's this powerful, motivating force, and that idea has shaped, well, everything, from military tactics to boardroom battles. For generations, the goal was victory, and anger was the gas in the tank. But that's a zero-sum game, right? One person wins, the other loses. In our world, a world of teams and partnerships and relationships that we need to last, is just crushing the other side really the goal? And that leads to a really powerful question. What if we could reframe conflict? Not as a fight, but as the ultimate training ground, a place to forge discipline, sharpen our communication, and build real leadership. So, how do you make that shift from being a fighter to a master negotiator? Well, the whole journey starts inside. The very first step in mastering conflict is mastering yourself. And that all begins with understanding a really crucial but often missed idea about our own emotions. Think about it. That flash of anger you feel, that knot of anxiety in your stomach, the sting of frustration. Those aren't weaknesses you need to crush. They're what we can call internal facts. They are pure data. They just exist inside you as a response to something you saw or heard. The feeling itself isn't good or bad, it's just information. And this, right here, this shows the single most critical separation you can possibly make. On one side, you've got the internal fact. I feel anxious. Okay, that's the data. On the other side, you've got the behavior that results from it, sending a hostile email. And that space, that little gap between the feeling and the action, that's everything. That is where all your power lies. Let me say this clearly. You never, ever need to apologize for the fact that you feel something. Your emotions are a totally valid part of your experience. The goal here is not to become some unfeeling robot. It's about practicing discipline. It's about owning that feeling without letting it own you. Okay, so how do we actually build that discipline? How do we create that space between the emotional trigger and what we do next? Well, we start by understanding the huge difference between a reaction and a response. You know the feeling. You get that critical email or someone challenges you in a meeting and bam, your body just takes over. That stress response, the adrenaline, the pounding heart, what we call fight or flight, is completely involuntary. Your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, fires up before you even have a chance to think. You can't just will it not to happen. But, and this is the absolute game changer, your response is a choice. A reaction is that uncontrolled, automatic knee-jerk. It's pure instinct. A response, though, is a planned, strategic, and conscious behavior. It's what you choose to do after you take a breath and break that involuntary cycle. So to help build that strategic response, there's an amazing tool from psychologist John Gottman. It's called the XYZ Formula. It's a simple, non-blaming way to report your internal facts. It's structured just like this. In situation X, when you do Y, I feel Z. It totally shifts the conversation from blame to just information. So let's look at an example. Instead of reacting and snapping, stop cutting me off, which just makes everything worse, you use the formula to respond with a strategy. You say, in the meeting just now, that's X. When you spoke over me, that's Y. I felt frustrated, that's Z. Can you feel the difference? It's huge. You're not attacking them, you're just giving them data about your internal state. It's clean, it's assertive, and it's a lot harder to argue with. Okay, so you're getting a handle on your own internal world, and you can talk about it constructively. That's a massive step. But conflict isn't a solo sport, right? There's someone else in the room. The next level of mastery is about shifting your focus to really understand what's going on with them. The former lead FBI hostage negotiator Chris Voss has a fantastic term for this: tactical empathy. Now, this isn't what you might think. It's not about being nice or even agreeing with the other person. It's about understanding their point of view and their feelings so deeply that you can actually start to influence the situation. Like Voss says, listening isn't just sitting there quietly. It is the most active thing you can possibly do. And you have to be active because the actual words people say, they're just the tiny tip of the iceberg. This famous research on communication found that only about 7% of a message's meaning comes from the words themselves. The rest of it,
the vast majority, is in their tone of voice and their body language. If you're only listening to the words, you are missing 93% of the conversation.
So how in the world do you listen for that other 93%? Well, you use specific tools, things like mirroring, where you just repeat the last few keywords they said, or labeling, where you name the emotion you're sensing from them. It seems like you're really frustrated with this process. And you've got to control your own tone, using what Voss calls the late-night FM DJ voice, that calm, downward-inflecting tone that just signals you're in control and you're not a threat. Okay, so let's put this all together. We've got self-awareness, we've got the ability to choose a response over a reaction, and we've got these tactical listening tools. How do we actually apply this stuff, especially in a leadership role where the stakes are even higher? It really boils down to 3 core practices. First, you have to model the behavior yourself. Report your own emotions using that XYZ formula. Second, you have to listen courageously, and that means having the strength to hear honest, sometimes negative, feedback without immediately getting defensive. And third, you have to master your own biology. Intentionally interrupt your own stress response with a simple pause. Just take a breath. It sounds so basic, but I promise you it's a superpower. At the end of the day, all of these techniques, all this practice, it's about one thing: preventing the conversation from spiraling out of control into hostility. As a leader, you have to remember that your composure is contagious. When you provide structure and you stay calm, you become the guide, steering the conflict away from a destructive crash and toward a productive solution. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from all this, a mindset you can carry with you into any tough conversation. It's this: I own my internal facts, my emotions fuel my power, they never control my actions. This isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's the exact opposite. It's about recognizing that your emotions are a huge source of energy and information, and then having the discipline to channel that power strategically. And that is how you turn every single conflict into training.